So we'll start with stereo isomerism. So this is the most complicated topic in organic chemistry. Complicated, at least at least on my end, it's very complicated. So stereochemistry is basically their isomers, their isomers having the same molecular formula. Same molecular formula. Same sequence of connectivity of the atoms. So the same molecular formula, same sequence of connectivity of atoms, different arrangement of atoms in space. So due to the different arrangement of atoms in space, due to different arrangement of atoms in space, it gives rise to completely different types of substances. Example is orange and lemon. That the substance responsible for their smell and properties is limonene. So orange is also made up of limonene, lemon is also made up of limonene. They have the same molecular formula, same sequence of connectivity of atoms, but different arrangement of atoms in space or different orientation of atoms. So so since it's all about 3D structures, these are all about 3D structures. তোমাদের একটু কষ্ট করে you have to watch some একটা একটা video, just watch some videos of the 3D structures. Another example of optical isomerism is spearmint. স্পিয়ারমিন্ট, স্পিয়ারমিন্টের বাংলা কি?
ধনিয়া পাতা।
ধনিয়া পাতা স্পিয়ারমিন্ট, পুদিনা না?
পুদিনা পাতা।
পুদিনা।
পুদিনা। And shahi jeera. Shahi jeera. They have the same molecular formula, same arrangement, same sequence of atoms, but একটা হলো একটা vegetable, না vegetable,
Herb.
Yeah, it's a
herb.
vegetable.
It's a herb, and this is a spice. This is a green leafy herb. This is a very coarse looking stuff. So ওদের ওদের সিকোয়েন্সিং, ওদের ধরো যে ডিএনএ সিকোয়েন্সিং ইজ অলমোস্ট সিমিলার, বাট ওদের অ্যারেঞ্জমেন্টটা ইজ ডিফারেন্ট, which ultimately gives rise to totally different substances. So how did all this arise? Let's go back to 1950s. So during 1950s, pregnant women, so pregnancy, actually there are 3 trimesters. First trimester, second trimester, third trimester. So first trimester, usually when the baby starts growing, women suffer from morning sickness. Women suffer from morning sickness. So morning sickness is basically they are unable to eat, they feel like vomiting, and they're very lethargic, and blah blah blah, অনেক কিছু থাকে. So I will not go into in depth of those. So I don't exactly know where they found it, but in order to relieve these symptoms, they found out a drug known as thalidomide. They figured out a drug called thalidomide. So after thalidomide was invented, everybody was very happy. It also relieved the morning sickness. So eventually what was seen, there was a study which found out that mothers who were taking this thalidomide drug were giving birth to babies with birth defects. কারোর পা নাই, কারোর হাত নাই, congenital anomalies বলি এগুলোকে আমরা, congenital anomalies. হাত নাই, পা নাই, কারোর ব্রেন ডেভেলপড হয় নাই, কারোর নিউরাল টিউব স্পাইন ডেভেলপড হয় নাই, কারোর বোনস ডেভেলপড হয় নাই. So they couldn't find out what was going wrong. They couldn't find out. So তারপর just before it was about to enter the USA market, FDA prevented its entry to the country. Federal Drug Administration, right? FDA.
What a বাজতে পড়ছি।
হ্যাঁ, so what তুমি পড়ছো যখন বলো what happens?
Basically, there was a displacement of some of a OH and a hydrogen atom in the কি একটা DNA এর পার্টে এই জন্য ডিফেক্ট হইছে basically it should have been beta but alpha ছিল এটা
So ঠিক আছে ও as much as as he knows, okay. So they FDA যখন the woman who was the chief, she said that we will not register this drug until further research. So ওরা ফার্দার রিসার্চ করে ও যেটা বললো যে ওরা যেটা বের করলো that they found out that this thalidomide has optical activity, or they have isomers. একটা হলো alpha, একটা হলো beta, but they or something else. So either, I don't know exactly which one, but any one of this was actually preventing morning sickness. আর alpha যেটা, it was interfering. I don't know exactly alpha beta কোনটা কি, but it was interfering with the DNA of the babies. So as a result, what happens was, since it was interfering with the DNA of the babies, it was giving a faulty genetic makeup to the babies. It was giving a so it was interfering with the genetic makeup of the baby. So as a result, babies were born with genetic defects, or sorry, birth defects. So from there, actually, they found out that even if they have the same molecular formula, same sequence of events, but they would have different arrangement of atoms in space, মানে different arrangement of atoms in the 3D structure. যেটা তুমি 2D তে দেখলে কোনোদিনও বুঝবা না, you have to watch it in a 3D structure. So এইটার, this is the biggest drawback, যে আমরা we cannot show you a 3D structure. So I'll try to find out some videos where you can actually find out the very distinct difference. So তোমরা তো A levels এ উঠে গেছো, যাদের বায়ো আছে, তোমরা আলফা গ্লুকোজ আর বিটা গ্লুকোজ পড়ছো না?
yeah that's what I was talking about
হ্যাঁ, so আলফা গ্লুকোজ আর বিটা গ্লুকোজে হাইড্রোজেন এন্ড হাইড্রোক্সাইডের একটা চেঞ্জ আছে, রাইট?
yes
Everything else is the same. So এখানে there is a circle, এখানে একটা CH2OH, and then there's a carbon, 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 1 2 3 4
আরেকটা হবে
6. So either the first carbon or the fifth carbon, first carbon ही মনে হয়, if the
first carbon.
if the H is at the top, it's alpha glucose. If the OH is at the top, it's beta glucose. And imagine, alpha glucose gives rise to what type of compound?
Sir, glycogen.
In human bodies, it's glycogen. In plants,
Starch.
it's starch. It's starch. Our beta,
Cellulose.
আমাদের মুখে কি টাইপ অফ অ্যামাইলেজ আছে? Salivary amylase is what type of amylase?
এত কিছু শিখিনি।
we didn't go there yet
Alpha amylase. এর জন্য you can digest starch, but you cannot break down cellulose in your body. এর জন্য cellulose is used as a fiber in your body. সো অ্যাকচুয়ালি স্টেরিওআইসোমেরিজম কোথায় কাজে লাগে জানো? যারা ফার্মেসিতে করবা, ফার্মেসি, বায়োটেক, জিন টেক, তারপর এভরিথিং, এনিওয়্যার ইউ গো, ইটস সো ইম্পর্টেন্ট, ইটস সো ইম্পর্টেন্ট। ইভেন আমাদের মেডিসিন, আমার একটা আলফা ডোপা, একটা আমাদের মেডিসিন আছে আলফা ডোপা। এটা হলো একটু সাইকোটিক পেশেন্ট যাদের, ওদেরকে দেয়। সো আলফা ডোপা, কেন এটা আলফা ডোপা? কারণ আলফা ডোপা works in your brain, but beta dopa causes cancer. Cancer hi to mone hoy, ha, something causes cancer or does something bad to your body.
That escalated quickly.
So this is why optical activity is so important. A2 te last chapter, Alva, do you remember chapter 30, organic synthesis?
I remember very little of it.
হ্যাঁ,
একটু
কেউ আমরা
একটু remember.
এটা কেউ পড়ে না, এখান থেকে কোয়েশ্চেনও খুব কম আসে, বাট মোস্ট ইন্টারেস্টিং চ্যাপ্টার অফ A2 ইজ দ্যাট চ্যাপ্টার। সো ওইটা আমি তোমাদেরকে পড়াই দিচ্ছি, দ্য হোল থিং। ওকে, সো এখন এই সব কিছু ওরা কি, হাউ ডিড দে ফাইন্ড আউট দ্য পোলারিমিটার? সো তোমরা কি, আর ইউ, ক্যান আই মুভ অন?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
This is A2, right?
কোনটা?
Eta.
না না না, এস এস, দিস ইজ এস। আমি তোমাদেরকে বলে দিব কোনটা A2 আর কোনটা AS। সো যেগুলো আমি A2 বলবো না সেগুলো সব AS।
Does it even matter?
It doesn't matter because you would need these again in A2. So এখন যেটা পড়াচ্ছি, this is extra information, but এইটা দেখে you would actually understand what is optical activity. Done.
Piece of fish.
So imagine this is a light source. So light source, first it passes through a slit. So suppose this is a slit. Then it passes through a polarizer. So a polarizer is basically, it's like you take a square metal and you make it into a very very small slits. So what happens if you do this? So when the light is passing, as they pass through the polarizer, all the wavelengths will be cancelled out or will be prevented from moving except one wavelength. So আমাদের electromagnetic spectrum এ আমাদের we have right, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. So violet এর wavelength হলো সবচেয়ে ছোট আর red এর wavelength হলো সবচেয়ে বড়। So from 700 to 400, all the wavelengths will be cancelled out or will be prevented from passing through except just one wavelength. সো লাইট গেল, লাইটের থেকে এখানে গেল, সো এখান থেকে, সো এটাকে আমরা কি বলি, আফটার দ্য লাইট হ্যাজ পাসড, it has just, it is a light of only one wavelength, only one wavelength, এটাকে আমরা বলি monochromatic light, monochromatic light, monochromatic light. তাহলে আমাদের অনেকগুলো ওয়েভলেন্থ ছিল, ওয়েভলেন্থ থেকে আলটিমেটলি আফটার ইট ইজ পাস থ্রু দ্য পোলারাইজার, নাও উই হ্যাভ জাস্ট ওয়ান wavelength. One wavelength, after this one wavelength passes through, আমাদের এখানে একটা, we have a sample in a tube. We have a sample. This is our sample solution. We have a sample solution. So sample solution থেকে light আবার pass করলো, pass করার পরে it then again moves through and passes through analyzer. Analyzer, or this was a polarizer which was fixed, আর এটা হলো analyzer which are rotatable polaroid. এটা কেন আমরা কেন করি এটা, to detect which wavelength is actually passing through, which a monochromatic light, what is the wavelength, এটা আমরা ultimately we check with this analyzer, and ultimately the light falls on the photocell. যত কম লাইট ফটোসেলে পড়বে সেটাই ওর ওয়েভলেন্থ, ওটা আমরা will come when we'll describe this, we'll write about it. So এখান থেকে আমরা অ্যাকচুয়ালি কি বের করতেছি, সো অপটিক্যাল অ্যাক্টিভিটি, হ্যাঁ, এই লাইটটা, this can rotate in two directions. একটা হতে পারে it can rotate in the clockwise direction, it can rotate the light in the clockwise direction, or it can also rotate the light in the anti-clockwise direction. কেউ বলতে পারবা, if it rotates the light in the clockwise direction, what is the name of it? So if your sample rotates the monochromatic light in the clockwise direction, এটাকে আমরা বলি হলো dextro
which is dextro-rotatory or something.
হ্যাঁ, dextro-rotatory, dextro-rotatory. And if it rotates it in the anti-clockwise direction, we call it a levorotatory. This is A2. Dextro and levo is A2.
Wait, the light spins the analyzer, or does the analyzer spin and then? I'm very confused.
এখান থেকে monochromatic light আছে না, সো এখানে তোমার sample, you have optically active sample. এখন তুমি কিভাবে জানবে it's optically active? If your compound rotates this light clockwise direction, then your compound is dextrorotatory. And if your optically active compound rotates your monochromatic light, আর এটার আরেকটা নাম আছে, সেটার নাম হলো plain polarized light. Plain polarized light. এটা ফিজিক্সে তুমি এএসএ পড়বা, ওয়েভসে। দিস ইজ ফিজিক্স, দিস ইজ ফিজিক্স। ফিজিক্সে পড়ার আগে আমি তোমাকে কেমিস্ট্রিতে পড়াই দিচ্ছি, বাট এটা তোমাদের পড়তেই হবে, এন্ড দিস ইজ ওয়ান অফ দ্য মোস্ট ইম্পর্টেন্ট পার্ট অফ এএস। এএস না হলো A2 তে, মানে শিওর। আমি আলবাব, এটা কি এএস নাকি A2? প্লেন পোলারাইজ আলবাব,
Yes, sir.
এটা কি এএস নাকি A2? প্লেন পোলারাইজ লাইট?
This is A2, if I remember correctly. Which I copied it.
So you
Sir.
have to study this. বলো।
Does it rotate in the sample solution?
The light rotates, the sample rotates the light. Okay?
Sure.
Yes. Acha, so let's first write down the description, তারপর I think তোমার অনেক কিছু clear out হয়ে যাবে. So এখন আমরা কনসেপ্ট বিল্ড করব, আর যখন রিভাইজ করব তখন শুধুমাত্র তোমাদের যে সিলেবাসে কতটুকু লাগবে we'll just revise that. But now we're going to study in a very elaborate way so that AS A2 totally covered and university তো তোমাদের অনেকটু covered হয়ে যাবে. So O levels এ যেমন আমি A levels এ জিনিস পড়াইতাম, A levels এ তোমাদের এখন ইউনিভার্সিটির কিছু জিনিস at least first few semesters তোমাদের covered হওয়া উচিত. Okay, so এখন what are which rotate plane polarized light. Light হলো optically active. তার ভিতরে আবার দুই রকম আছে, একটা হলো rotate clockwise, rotate anti-clockwise. So if it rotates clockwise, it's dextro-rotatory, and if it rotates anti-clockwise, it's levo-rotatory. Lever banan can also be written as Laevo. এটা কেটে দাও, Laevo.
স্যার ডিআরএল কে সবসময় ক্যাপিটাল লিখতে হবে?
হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ। Compounds which do not rotate plane polarized light. Optically inactive. So এটা লিখে রাখো যে optical isomerism arises from the inherent asymmetry of the molecules that make up each isomer. তাহলে asymmetry কি? Asymmetry হলো asymmetrical molecule has no plane and no center of symmetry. Asymmetrical molecules are called chiral molecule, identical to each other, but are related as a mirror image
That is
related as a mirror image object. So একটা example is hand. আমরা যদি if we have a reflection of our hand on the mirror, আচ্ছা তোমরা you try that out আরো simple. So তোমরা অক্টাগনে যে নাজলিন মিস তাপসী মিস ওই রুমে কে তাপসী মিস ক্লাস নেয়, রাইট? আচ্ছা, সো তাপসী মিসের রুমে যেখানে তোমরা এক্সাম দিতা, you saw you saw the chairs, right? So there are chairs for right-handed people, there are chairs for left-handed people. এখন তুমি যদি if you take a chair which is right-handed chair, so it's a chair like this and it has a table, it's sorry, এটাকে কিভাবে, হ্যাঁ ঠিকই তো আছে, এটাকে আরেকটু চড়া বানাই দিই। So suppose this is a right-handed chair. So এটাকে তুমি যদি if you see it in a mirror, if you see it in a mirror, if you see it in a mirror, তাহলে you'll get a reflection. সেই রিফ্লেকশনটাকে তুমি যদি রোটেট করো আর আবার এটার উপরে বসে দাও, it's gonna superimpose. But imagine a right-handed chair and a left-handed chair. This is a right-handed chair, this is a left-handed chair. The 3D তে একটু বুঝাইতে পারলে আর একটু ভালো হতো. This is a left-handed chair. So even if you want, can you superimpose this into this? মানে তুমি exact perfect fit কি পাবা তুমি?
না স্যার, রোটেট করলেও পাবো না।
না, রোটেট করলেও পারবা না। কি পাবা আলটিমেটলি, যে রাইট হ্যান্ড চেয়ারের তুমি এরকম পাবা একটা, আর লেফট হ্যান্ড চেয়ারের এরকম একটা জিনিস পাবা।
জি স্যার।
Right? So this is known as chiral molecules. These are known as chiral molecules which are non-superimposable. Which are non, acha, so which are, these are chiral molecules যেটা non-superimposable, we know, we call it as enantiomers, but এটা আজকে না। So তোমাদের I'll just make it very simple. So there's a big explanation behind it, but for you people I'll just explain it in short. So light wave is what type of wave?
Electromagnetic.
Electromagnetic
Transverse.
Transverse.
Transverse wave. Okay, so transverse wave, what is happening?
উপর নিচে যায়।
So light has both magnetic and electrical fields or electric fields which are perpendicular to each other. Vibrations of these planes are in a direction parallel to the progression of theta. So ধরো যে light wave itself has a own field of electric and magnetic, and then there are electrons. Electrons are present inside a molecule. So electrons are charged particles with which are constantly in random motion. These moving electrons create their own magnetic and electric fields.
Sir, did you write vibrations of two planes?
Progression of the light wave.
Sir, no, on the first part of the sentence.
Vibration of these planes are in direction parallel to the progression of the light wave.
So second line টা একটু বোঝাতে পারবেন?
Okay, so light wave, electromagnetic wave, direction of progression of the wave is perpendicular to the movement, right? Like something like this, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this is one for the electric field and one for the magnetic field. So when you combine both of them, the vibrations, the electric and magnetic field vibrations are parallel to the progression. If this is the progression, the sum is parallel to the progression of the wave, the movement of the wave. So it's more of like a 3D thing. So
Okay.
For you people, সোজা কথা সেটা হলো যে the light wave has its own magnetic and electric field. Electrons have their own magnetic and electric field. When these two interfere with each other, when the magnetic and electric field of the electrons interfere with the magnetic and electric field of the light wave, তখনই there's a rotation of the plane polarized monochromatic light. Okay, so depending on how the interference is, it can rotate the light in a clockwise direction, or it can rotate it in the anti-clockwise direction. So if it's rotating the light in a clockwise direction, what do we call it? Dextro-rotative. And if it is rotating the light in the anti-clockwise direction, we call it levo-rotative. This is very advanced level stuff. So এখানে তোমরা লিখে রাখো not needed. মাথা নষ্ট করার কোনো দরকার নেই.
So may I ask a question?
Yeah.
So what does like the rotation like anti-clockwise and clockwise depend upon?
These two factors. So are you done writing?
Yes, sir.
Everybody done writing?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So as we were saying, there are two fields. There are two fields coinciding. একটা হলো the light wave. So the light wave itself has a magnetic field and an electric field. So in A2, you will study about wave particle duality. Have you studied about it? Wave particle duality.
No, sir.
So electrons
Oh,
can
sir.
act as particles, or it can also act
And
as
waves.
So electrons itself has a magnetic and an electric field. So when these two coincide, there is a net angle in which the light is rotating. ঠিক আছে? So wave তো ধরো যে মানে it's like how do we show it here? এটাকে if we say if this is our center point, so waves is like moving around in this direction. So whether it's gonna go straight or whether it's gonna go right or whether it's gonna go left, this totally depends on the interference between these two factors. Okay, so the interference between the magnetic and electric field of the plane polarized light and the magnetic and electric field of the electrons causes the rotation of the light. Okay, so now what is chirality? A molecule or an object is said to be chiral or dissymmetric if it is not superimposable on its mirror image. And the property of non-superimposability is called chirality. So example. So what does this chirality actually mean? So last class I gave you an example. So if we have a chair, a simple chair with legs, and if this is your mirror, and we have another chair, this is our mirror image. So although in my diagram it looks different, but in reality
It looks like mirror images.
it's actually exactly the same. So when you take this original object, this is the original and this is the mirror image. So when you take this and try to fit it here, it's exactly gonna overlap with each other. So this is superimposable. Superimposable. So objects in which the original and the mirror image are superimposable on each other is known to be achiral objects, or achiral objects, no, achiral compounds. অথবা এখানে objects না লিখে, let's just write compounds, so it's more relevant to chemistry. So simply put, so if you remember the chairs in my classroom in Octagon, you would see
Yes.
you can stack the chairs one over the other. ঠিক আছে? So since you can stack it one over the other, they have similar images. মানে the mirror image is exactly the same as the original one. Original we call it we call it superimposable, and they're achiral compounds. Are we done writing this?
Yes, sir.
Later লেখো যে compounds where the original original compound and its mirror image is non-superimposable on one another. Compounds where the original compound and its mirror image is non-superimposable on one another is known as chiral compounds. So এখন why are we so concerned? মানে তোমরা তো বলতে পারো স্যার they are different compounds. তাইলে why does it matter? So এই জিনিসটাই we have to clearly figure out যে they are not different compounds. মানে skeleton wise they will have the same number of carbons, hydrogens, oxygens, nitrogen, sulfur, whatever it is. ওদের লিঙ্কিং ও সেম থাকবে। এমন যদি হয় যে একটা কার্বনে যে CH3 তারপর এখানে CH2OH, তারপর CH3. Okay, this is one of the compounds. আর আরেকটা কম্পাউন্ড হতে পারে CH3, CH2, O, CH2, CH3. তাহলে are they similar compounds?
No, sir.
No. So এখানে জিনিসটা হলো যে here the oxygen is linked to what?
Hydrogen.
The oxygen is linked to which atom? The oxygen is linked to carbon
হ্যাঁ
and linked to hydrogen. আর এখানে কিন্তু the oxygen is both linked to carbon. So তার মানে কি, will they be stereoisomers? Will they be stereoisomers?
No.
No, because ওদের linkageটাই different. So এটাকে আমরা কি type of isomers বলবো? It's a type of structural isomerism. আর structural isomerism এর subtype হিসেবে এটা কোনটা?
ফাংশনাল
So functional group.
Functional group isomerism. Very good. This is functional group isomerism. So basically, then what is happening? So এইটার সাথে তোমার যদি CH3, CH2, C, CH3, CH2OH. It looks the same, right? So these will be stereoisomers. But when will they be stereoisomers? When the eighter are eighter, the mirror images will not be superimposable. So ওদের আমি firstly একটা definition দিছিলাম, which is they have the same molecular formula and same linkage. The atoms will have the same linkage. But what is the only difference? The only difference is it will have a different arrangement of atoms in space. 3D structure ওদের arrangement different হবে. So I'm taking this 4 things. So suppose the pencil here, একটা compound it's towards you. বাকি কিন্তু সবকিছু same. Everything else is same. Listen to this very carefully. এই যে একটা compound, একটা this only this pencil. In one of the compounds, it is directed towards you. And আরেকটা compound is directed towards me. এটা কিন্তু very slight difference. এটা কি তুমি 2D তে দেখতে পারবা? দেখতে পারবা। এটা শুধু 3D তে সম্ভব। So in one of the structures is pointing towards you and the other structure is pointing towards me. It's a very small difference. But will they be superimposable?
No, sir.
No, sir.
They will not be superimposable. তার মানে কি, since they are not superimposable,
It is a chiral molecule.
these are chiral compounds. So basically, stereochemistry main problem টাই হলো যে we are studying in a 2D way, but it should actually be in a 3D way. We should be studying in a 3D way, where you can actually see the different structures of the molecules in a 3D makeup. তখন তুমি actually বুঝবে যে how slight the difference is. Do you get me, everybody? That is stereoisomerism is সবকিছু same.
Yes.
Everything is same. Except what? Except the arrangement. There is a very small difference in arrangement, and that causes different structures or stereoisomers. So so we have all heard about cholesterol, right? Cholesterol. So cholesterol has 8 chiral centers. আচ্ছা chiral center so what is a chiral center এখন একটা আরেকটা জিনিস শিখতে হবে what is a chiral center so a chiral center it is an sp3 hybridized so sp3 মানে how many bonds does it have
4.
4 which is attached to 4 different functional groups মানে এই যে আমি যে এখন মাত্র this is a red pen this is a black pen this is a lead pencil and this is a regular pencil তার মানে কি these are all 4 different objects right these are all 4
Yes, sir.
different things so এই যে মাঝখানে whoever is going to keep it attached to it's being attached to 4 different functional groups so we call the center carbon a chiral carbon so এটাকে আমরা for example এখানে একটা কার্বন আছে this carbon is linked to a hydrogen it's linked to sulfur it's linked to a chlorine it's linked to a it's linked to a bromine আর এখানে ধরো যে it's linked to a CH3 আচ্ছা তোমাদেরকে হ্যাঁ so this carbon is linked to what 4 different functional groups একটা দুইটা তিনটা these are all different to each other তাহলে we can call this a chiral center
Sir, is the chiral center always a carbon atom?
হ্যাঁ আর কোন তোমাদের এখানে কোনটা চারটা বন্ধ করে so carbon is a this carbon is a chiral center why is it a chiral center because it's linked to 4 different functions so cholesterol so cholesterol is a complex organic compound কারণ আমাদের বডিতে যা যা আছে আমাদের বডিতে anything we have these are all complex structures so cholesterol has 8 chiral centers and 256 optical isomers the chiral molecule so out of so many possible combination only one isomer is the cholesterol found in our body so chirality of a molecule depends on
So what do you mean by inversion point?
inversion point means আচ্ছা so ধরো যে এখানে একটা মলিকিউল আছে ঠিক আছে এই মলিকিউলের দুইটাই অ্যারেঞ্জমেন্ট হলো ওর পিছনে it's going out of the paper আর এখানে the mirror image it shows that both are coming towards the paper so তোমার inversion করলেও there it will not be superimposable মানে even if you rotate it and try to fit in it will not fit so তোমার যদি right and left chair তুমিও ধরো যে এখানে একটা এই যে টেবিলটা আমরা let's come back to this table so এখানে this is pointing towards the table আর this is also pointing towards the table so এখানে যদি আমরা if we take a mirror image ঠিক আছে if we take a mirror image এটাকে তুমি যদি ডাইরেক্টলি এখানে বসাতে চাও তাহলে কিন্তু হবে না ওকে কি করতে হবে first you have to rotate it এটাকে তুমি যদি if you want to superimpose this image if you want to superimpose so first ওকে কি করতে হবে you have to rotate it into like this and then you have to insert it on this object this is inversion point But inversion point is not what you need. What you need is plane of symmetry. What you need is plane of symmetry. So plane of symmetry আমি তোমাদেরকে সোজা কথা আমি তোমাদেরকে বুঝাই সেটা হলো যে এই টেবিলটার কথাই চিন্তা করো just imagine this table forget about the chair number 1 and chair number 2 so তুমি যদি if you try to bisect it into equal halves তাহলে এটা হলো left hand side আর এটা হলো right hand side are they same or different
Same.
they're same
Different.
now they're same এটাকে তুমি if you bisect it from the center এখানে যা
লাইন অফ সিমেট্রি না সেন্টার
এখানে যা আছে এখানেও তাই আছে
Hmm.
এখানেও যা আছে এখানেও তাই আছে so they have a line of symmetry
Yes, sir.
okay they have a line of symmetry so we cannot so what we since it has a line of symmetry this is a achiral molecule
What?
chiral molecular definition here molecule or an object is said to be chiral or dissymmetric it has to be dissymmetric it has to be asymmetric where you will not have any line of symmetry so a molecule which does not have a line of symmetry
Is a chiral.
is a chiral molecule and
What?
which has a line of symmetry for example this we call this
A chiral.
achiral. So if you break it if you have an imaginary line so what is here what is on the left hand side a CH3 what's on our right hand side what's on our right hand side CH3
CH3.
so are both of them exactly the same on both sides
Yes, sir.
so this
Yes,
is
sir.
a achiral
Yes,
achiral molecule carbon with hydrogen iodine chlorine and hydrogen if you divide this will you have the same thing on both
No, sir. No.
Sir, chiral model.
we call this a chiral sorry chiral molecule
Sir, কিন্তু এখানে তো 4 different functional group হলো না।
হ্যাঁ এই জন্য একটু চেঞ্জ করে দিলাম ব্রোমিন হবে
Okay, sir. Okay. Sir, যদি দুইটা সেম থাকে তাহলে তো it's not a chiral center মানে molecule, right?
it can be if they do not have a line of symmetry
আচ্ছা, okay.
তোমাদের জন্য ASA you just need chiral centers you do not need plane of symmetry but A2 te when we'll be studying NMR when we'll be studying NMR we will need plane of symmetry we will need plane of symmetry ঠিক আছে so এখন
NMR কি?
হ্যাঁ so what is a plane of symmetry a plane of symmetry is an imaginary line that bisects a molecule into two equal halves that are mirror images of each other whenever a molecule if you are able to find out one single plane which bisects the compound into 2 equal halves. They say the molecules are achiral. Molecules are achiral. So any তুমি যদি যে কোনো একটা মলিকিউলের আচ্ছা এখানে so if you're given something like this, is this a chiral molecule or an achiral molecule?
Chiral. Oh, sorry, chiral.
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 Chiral. Chiral.
Chiral. Are you sure?
স্যার আপনি কি 5টা সাইড দিচ্ছেন নাকি 6টা?
Achiral হবে তো।
স্যার একাকেও কারণ ওই যে
Sir, this is a
Five.
chiral.
5টা সাইড না?
5.
তাহলে chiral.
তাইলে chiral.
Chiral.
Okay. So how do we draw a line of symmetry like this?
হ্যাঁ জি স্যার।
কারণ এখানে this is a carbon, যেটা এখানে একটা কার্বন, এখানে একটা কার্বন, 2 carbons. And this is the third carbon. এটাতে 1, 2, 3. So on either side you have 3 carbons. So exactly এটার actually diagram টা হবে এরকম। Now it's easier to understand, right? So তোমার যে কোনো so আমরা যদি এটাকে একটু অনেকগুলো প্লেনে আমরা একটু ভাগ করি, এটা করলাম, এটা করলাম, এইটা এটার সাথে এরকম করলাম, আবার এটার সাথে এরকম করলাম, এটার সাথে অনেক মানে আমি অনেকগুলো প্লেন বের করলাম। হ্যাঁ, প্লেন বের করার পরে এখানে যেখানে সেন্টার, যেখানে সবগুলা লাইন মিট করে, সেটার নাম
Optical center.
This is known as the center of symmetry.
Law.
This is known as the center of symmetry.
So একটা প্লেন পাইলেই তো হবে না achiral হওয়ার।
If you can find one plane which complete or which shows that it forms mirror image, মানে it has মানে এটা কি বলে, মানে they are identical mirror images, তার মানে the molecule is achiral.
স্যার এটা একটু বুঝায় দিয়েন।
এটার মোট কথা হলো যে এটা একটু sophisticated ওয়ার্ডে লেখা, আর আমি এটা তোমাকে ইজিলি বুঝাই দিছি যে তুমি যখন when you have 5-6 lines of symmetry and you draw all the lines of symmetry, যে সিঙ্গেল পয়েন্টে তোমার all your lines of symmetry overlap or intersect, that is your center of symmetry. So we have studied enough of stereochemistry, I think. We have gone very in depth about these things. So one thing we have to just, so are you done with this?
Yes sir.
Yes sir.
Okay. So stereoisomers. Stereoisomers, which are non-superimposable mirror images of each other, are called enantiomers. So enantiomers are of 2 types. Actually, D-isomer, মানে D-isomer কি বলি আমরা, dextro rotatory isomer, আর আরেকটা হলো L-isomer, which is levo rotatory isomer. So in a solution where there is 50% of D isomer and 50% of L isomer in a solution where there is 50% of D isomer and 50% of L isomer, and the rotation cancel out, and the rotations cancel out. The rotations cancel out. We call it a racemic mixture. We call it a racemic mixture.
Sir, and the rotations cancel each other.
রোটেশন ক্যান্সেল হয়ে যাবে না, যে ধরো যে তোমার কাছে 10টা মলিকিউল আছে, 5টা মলিকিউল is rotating the plane polarized light in the clockwise direction. 5 molecules is rotating the light in the clockwise direction, 5 molecules is rotating it in the anti-clockwise direction. So ultimately it cancels out each other and there is no net effect. That is known as a racemic mixture. So this solution does not exhibit stereo isomerism. This solution does not exhibit stereo isomerism because the rotations cancel out.